We'll get started in just a few minutes. Kind of wait a few minutes till everyone come on in. We will be live streaming this on Facebook on our Durham Community Engagement Facebook page if you'd like to join there. And also the recording is immediately available on our Facebook page after this event. Thanks for joining us. As always, during the event, please, if you have questions, you can share them in the chat function or the Q&A, and we will try to get to them at some point during our talk. And also, if you have memories, if you recognize people in the photos, things like that, please share. This is a great time to hear from other people about their experience with the Harriet Tubman YWCA. Everyone, welcome to this month's event. We are here for another installment of our community stories. This month, we're learning about the Harriet Tubman YWCA that was located on East Umstead Street. And I've spent a lot of time researching this event and talking with people, and so excited to get to learn about this amazing community site and all the people that were involved with it, and so privileged and honored to be able to share it with you all today. As always, this event is part of our community story series from the Equitable Community Engagement work through the City of Durham Neighborhood Improvement Services Department. And without further ado, I will introduce our moderator for today, Miles Spann, my coworker, and I'm so glad that he is joining us for the first time in our community stories. And then he will be speaking today with Miss Virginia Williams, who was a resident of the YWCA for 2 decades, amongst many amazing things that she has done. So please sit back. Enjoy, and again, please share and chat as you hear different things that resonate with you. We love to hear where you all are as you're joining our event today. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction, Laura. I really appreciate it. And today we are here with Miss Virginia Williams. Hi, Miss Williams. How are you today?
Hello, I'm fine. At least right now.
Well, we don't expect that to change, so we're happy to have you here. And start us off. Miss Virginia Williams, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Tell me a little bit.
I'm from Northampton County in a little place called Seaboard, North Carolina. And I came to Durham in 1956, and I moved to the YWCA at the end, toward the end of 1956, and I stayed there until 1976, which means I lived at the Y longer than anybody else, and I received that award for having been the longest lived residents of the Harriet Tubman branch YWCA. And the only reason I stayed there that long was because I truly loved it and enjoyed it. And every time they would ask me, well, have you found anywhere else to live? I said, I can't find nowhere else to go. I wasn't looking. I enjoyed being at the Y.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your experience there. We're going to ask you a couple questions about the YWCA. And so just start us off. What do you remember about your experience there? What brought you to the YWCA?
Well, I worked at Duke, and I met Mary Clyde, who is also one of the Royal Seven. And she was living there before I moved there. And she kept telling me, Jen, you ought to move here. It is such a nice place to live. And sure enough, I did. And I found out I wasn't looking for no other place. They kept asking me because it really was not supposed to be a permanent home for you. It was supposed to be home for the students. Basically, the students were supposed to come and do the 3-year schooling or 4-year or whatever it was. And then they'd move on and other students would come.
Mhm.
But I would say there were about at least 10 of us who were not students. We were just working there, but we all loved it so much, we didn't go nowhere looking for nothing else, nowhere else to live.
Did they so how did that whole process work for you? So I remember you telling us a story about you coming from a really small town. Tell me about how that adventure happened where you said, you know what, this is the place I want to be.
Well, they would always bring the seniors from the school that we were going to. They would bring the seniors up here and let us see Lincoln, which was at that time a hospital. It was not a clinic. We would visit Lincoln Hospital. We would visit the nurses' home. We would go to North Carolina Mutual, Mechanic and Farmers Bank, Mutual Savings and Loans. They would let us see at that time we called it colored community, and hope that some of us would decide to come back and join them. And that is what I did, because I figured that's a nice little town, so I can handle that. I've never been a big city girl, although this one's getting pretty big now. But that is why I came. And the reason I stayed is because I loved it. I enjoyed being here. And it was so many things going on at one time. There was sock hop here for the children, somebody over there playing something else, and it was just a lively place. And we had a very good cook named Mary Skirty from South Carolina, from Georgia. And the food was so good, some of the people who didn't even live there, but who on Sundays would order her rolls. They loved the rolls, and on weekdays they would order soup from her. So that is what kept me here once I got here.
You say, come from the housing, stay for the food.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the space around the YWCA. Where was it located at? And what was around it at that time?
It was located at 304, I believe, East Umstead St. And it was houses around it. It was right in a community.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So we're going to start off. We're going to look at a few pictures. So tell us what you remember. Tell us what you can remember about what's happening in these photos. We could start with the one on the left. So Naomi, can you tell us what's happening here?
Naomi Jackson, Naomi Finial Jackson. Naomi also was from Seaboard, and she went to nursing school. And the two guys were students, actually graduate students at North Carolina then College. And there was so much going on there. They are playing cards. And that was what some of them did over here in the front. We can't figure out, they were just socializing. And one of the guys on the left, last name was Simmons, but I don't know what his first name was. Then when we move over to the picture on the right, the lady standing is Mrs. Beatrice White. She was our house mother. She spent the night, in fact, she lived there with us. And she was really a character. She was truly somebody you would wanna be around. And if I recall, she didn't even start to driving until she was 7 years old, but 70 years old.
Wow.
But she'd get that car and she'd go down the road and up the road, and sometimes we would ride Fayetteville Street. And Miss Blanchard was the director of the place, and she always said, well, you can never leave the desk uncovered. We only had one telephone, so all the calls came through the desk, and that meant somebody needed to be on the desk at all times. So I would get home from work probably before anybody else, and I'd get home and shower because, you know, we only had one bathroom for each floor. So I'd get home and shower, and then as the others came home, they would shower. And I came home one day and Mom B, that's who we call her. Her name was Beatrice White. She said, Jenny, when you get through shower and come downstairs, she didn't tell me what was going to happen, but it didn't matter because I figured it'd be something good. I came downstairs and she was standing there and she had this big sheet and she covered that desk from all over, including the telephone. And she looked at me, she said, Miss Blanchard said, you can never leave the desk uncovered. Now the desk is covered. So now we going on for a ride, and we got in that car and we went somewhere and got, I don't even remember the places here, but we got some hot dogs, I think, or something, and went on back home. Nobody else ever knew that we had left the desk uncovered with people because the sheet was over it. She was a lot of fun.
It seems like she had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Apparently you do too. So tell me what's happening in this photo on our left.
It looks like I'm telling Katie, who did not live at the Y, but she was a friend of mine, and she's sitting there, and I don't know whether I was telling her, I'm going inside. I don't know what you're gonna do. I have no idea, but we were having fun, whatever it was. In the middle, that picture was taken downstairs. The lady on the left of that picture is Vivian Jones, and Vivian is one of the Royal Seven. I'm on the other side with the umbrella. In the middle is Annie Ruth, who was a friend of ours that lived on Umstead Street. So we would just always get together and have fun. Apparently something had happened downstairs, or something was getting ready to happen down there, some kind of activity, and we were already in place.
So what is, so it says Showtime at the YWCA. What's Showtime at the YWCA?
Showtime is when we would have dances, and actually we had dances there. We had different kind of activities, and you come down and see, and whatever we wanted to do, that's what we did at Showtime. They had a friend of mine was teaching calypso downstairs for the young people.
Oh.
And when she didn't feel good, she would ask me to fill in for her. So I was teaching calypso when she was not there. Everything was just so much fun. We had for the younger children, when they got out of school, they came straight to the Y, and we had sock hop. They would all wear their little socks, and they'd come in, and they even had somebody that can teach them how to do their little sock hop dance.
That's so cool. So let's see, we're looking at, so tell us what's happening on the left. YWCA Snappy Teen Club? What's that?
I'm not familiar with that because I was probably doing something else. But the Snappy Team, that sounded like there was some kind of activities too. And I'm not sure who is actually teaching that. But apparently they were wearing black and white, looks like black skirts, white. Like I said, there was so much going on at the Y, you couldn't even keep up with all of it.
So I remember a story you were telling us about. You were telling us about how you wanted to be in the drama club. You tell us your experience.
We had a large drama. We had a large drama club there. Part of it was drama and part of it was comedy. But the lady who was in charge of it is Nezzie Clark Carter was in charge of it, and I was her play daughter, so she just went on and assigned me to the comedy part. I wanted to do the drama. And the first play we had was Dumb Dora. I was Dora. I was working for this family, and they thought my work was so good. They liked the way I worked. And so they decided they were going to, in addition to paying me whatever they were paying me, they gave me a brand new bed. They didn't know I was keeping my money in the bed, in the mattress. So I came home from work that day and I found out that new bed was in there and my bed was gone and I had a fit. And they said, what? I said, my money is in that bed. So they went where they had taken that bed, the old one from, and brought the mattress back, laid it on the floor where I could count it. And I went straight to where that money was and I counted it. And when I finished counting, they say, is it all there? I say, yes. And I was supposed to be speaking, it was some kind of foreign language that I was supposed to speak, but I never could get it. But I told them, yes, it's all in here. $333,333. That's what it was, $3,333. That's what I had saved in the mattress. They took them out. I got the money. They took the old mattress back and I had that plus a new mattress. That was from Dora. I guess I was dumb because I kept it in the mattress, but I eventually got it back.
Oh, that is such a good story. That is such a good story. So who are the people that we're looking at? Do you know any of these people that we see over here?
I know the lady in the middle is Mrs. Marie Toran, and she is still living and she lives in Hillsborough. She was the director. As I recall, she was the last director of the Harriet Tubman branch YWCA. I don't know the other two.
Okay. Okay.
In the
And-
middle is Mrs. Smith. I knew her really good. She was a very busy woman in St. Joseph AME Church because she lived on one end of Umstead Street and we were on the other end of Umstead Street. She was she always looked out for the community. And standing over her is Gloria McAulin. Gloria, I think, became the next director after Mrs. Clark left because she was in the office and I want to just backtrack and tell you a little bit about some of the other things that happened at the WAC. On every fifth Friday, you know, you don't have that many fifth Fridays in the year, but every fifth Friday, Nancy Carter, who was my play mother and who was the director of the programs and things, would get this green and two-tone green station wagon. And we would get in the station wagon and go out to the VA hospital and give a package of cigarettes to every veteran in the hospital in the VA. Whoever thought about cigarettes and tobacco killing folks? In 1957, we didn't. We thought it was a good thing to do. And that's why I would always get off and make sure I was in that van to go and pass them out. That was one of the things that Miss Carter did, Clark Carter, Nezzy, and Gloria took over that position when she left. And they still had a few things to do. So that was some of their activities.
That's wonderful. So what's happening here? Dr. Rose Butler Brown, do you know any of these people? Do any of these people familiar?
The speaker is Mrs. Rutha Blanchard. She was the head of she was the director when I moved there. And she was a good one. She looked out for that YWCA. She looked out for us. And she was a very nice person. That's another reason why I stayed there, because everybody was just so nice. The lady sitting on her right, which is my left, was Dr. Rose Butler Brown. She was the wife of Reverend Brown, the pastor of Mount Vernon Baptist Church. And that church was right around the corner from the Y. And if you ride down Austin Avenue now, either way you go, if you go from town to it, you're gonna pass a cemetery, or coming back, you find a cemetery, and you will also see Static High on Austin Avenue beside those cemeteries. This is Dr. Rose Butler Brown. That is who they are talking about. When you pass there, you see Dr. Rose Butler Brown's.
That's pretty awesome. So tell me, because it sounds like, you know, it was a lot of activities that were going on at the YWCA. Just talk a little bit about how important the YWCA was as a meeting place.
It was really a good place to meet if you were a member of an organization and you wanted to meet there, you could meet there. And I think you could meet free. On Thursday nights, as I told you about the good food that Skirty cooked, was called Family Night. So a lot of the professors from North Carolina College came on Thursday nights and ate, and we got a chance to meet several of them. I believe you're looking at the Durham Business and Professional chain. That was the businessmen. They met there every Tuesday, I think at 1 o'clock. And I remember they came for the meeting, and actually it was a very viable group, but they also enjoyed the food. And when Stevie Scarborough, I think he died last year or a year before last, had then taken over the business, he had a funeral most of the time and he could never make it, but they would always save him some of those he would always ask for her to save him some of those hot rolls and that soup. And I knew he was gonna be down there eating it. And I would always make sure that I was there to get some of it too. But it was really it was interesting. I don't know that much about this community club of South Roxborough Street, but I think it involved people all over the community. That was not just a YWCA club. It was as said, a community club. And that's another reason why it drew so many people from across the city into it. And you got a chance to meet a lot of people.
Okay. Let's see, let's check out the next slide.
Mom B again. That was Mom B. She was just a wonderful. She actually came to the YWCA from Lincoln Nursing Home. She was at Lincoln first, and then she came, I think one of the house mothers retired from Harriet Tubman branch, so she came and took her place. And she was so much fun. I had a roommate named Hazeline Albright, and she would nickname all of us. And she just called me Jenny. Everybody had a nickname, but she nicknamed my my roommate, Not So Bright. She didn't call it Albright, Not So Bright. And all of us got a kick out of that, including my roommate.
Okay, so tell all right, so as we keep walking through, you had a lot of really interesting experiences, and one of the experiences that that is extremely important to talk about is the Royal Ice Cream Sit-In. So could you paint a picture of how did you end up in a situation like that? What happened?
Well, let me back up some. In Northampton County, when we would see our father maybe about, and all of the men, all of the colored men in the community would get dressed about once every 3 or 4 months and go off to a meeting and they wouldn't tell us where they were going. And I kept asking my mama, and I guess she said, well, she ain't gonna stop asking. So she finally told me they're going to that NAACP meeting. Well, I was satisfied then, but I made up my mind when I was in the 10th grade in high school. When I graduated from high school, I knew I couldn't go to college because we didn't have, a lot of people had hogs, they sold hogs and things like that. It was relatively cheap, but we still could, I still knew I wasn't gonna be able to go to college. But I said, I'm going somewhere, I'm gonna get me a job and I'm gonna get and find me a meeting like he's going to. And I'm not gonna slip there. I'm gonna walk in there and hold my head up and let the people know I'm here for business. That is what drew me to that particular Sunday. The three of us, Mary Clyde, Vivian Jones, and I were on our way out of the building. It was a Sunday afternoon, and you're 20 years old, so you get go somewhere. They had a club downstairs. I think his name was Bug Jones, had some kind of club down there. You go down there. They had drugstore on the Fayetteville Street, so it was a lot of places to go on Sunday afternoons. That's where we were going. These dressed up men were coming in and we were going out. Had we been, I'd say 10 minutes earlier or 10 minutes later, we wouldn't have been a part of that because there were no women in that club. So one of them invited us to come to the meeting and I said, well, what kind of meeting is it? He said, political, and that was the briar patch I wanted to be in. That was exactly what I was looking for. We forgot about going on Fayetteville Street and the three of us went in there and joined them and we sat there and we weren't in there, but well, as soon as we got in there, David Stitz was the chairman of that organization. It was called ACT, and I don't know what ACT stood for, but that was it. And it was a organization that they had organized, and it was one of those quiet things like we ain't gonna have no press conference. We're not gonna even tell those the colored folks that we think will discourage us from going. You tell somebody if you know they're not gonna tell it. And that's how that got organized. I would say it's between 20 and 25 men in there. And as I said, no women, but once somebody invited us, the door was open, we went in. That is how I ended up in there. And that Sunday, we found out what it was all about. They had quietly organized to stage a sit-in in some of the places here in Durham. And the next meeting was gonna be June the 23rd, which would be a month later. Nobody still was gonna be out here talking about it, but we were going to stage a sit-in somewhere, and there were only gonna be 2 questions on the table. Number 1, where are we gonna stage the sit-in? And number 2, who is willing to go? So June the 23rd, which was, I think, the 4th Sunday in June, we went to the meeting. And the chairman put those 2 questions on the board, on the table. Where are we going? Well, different places were named. You didn't have to worry about finding a place that was segregated. All of them were segregated. So that was easy. But somebody came up with the idea, well, why not go to the Royal Ice Cream Parlor? It's located in the heart of the colored community. We can go in and stand up and wait until he gets through waiting on all of the white people. Then he would come to us and take our order, and we had to get it ice cream or whatever you're gonna get, popsicles or something, and go out the back door, get in the car and leave. You did not sit in your car in the parking lot and eat your food. And we're thinking, well, this is a place that we need to go. So that Sunday, I don't know who drove, I don't know how we got there, but 7 of us ended up over there sitting down, and we knew we knew there was a push door that we were gonna have to go in the back, go up the steps. But the idea was whoever went in that door pushed it so wide and so hard that all of us could get in there before it closed. And the same thing about the little swinging door that they had in the restaurant. Let's make it clear, whoever push it hard enough so all 7 of us could clear and get in there, and we did. We went in there and picked the choice seats, the booth. Everybody wanted the booth because you want to see traffic coming from this way, traffic coming from that way, people coming from this way. You just want to see. Well, we took all of those booths, and the waiter went back and he got a look at us and he made sure that he knew what he was looking at. He went to the manager's office and he told the manager that we were there. Manager came out and looked at us, then went back in there, and he sent the waiter to work those booths. Start at this end of the restaurant and see if you can quietly get them to leave. He started down there and nobody was leaving. We couldn't hear what they were saying, but we knew nobody was leaving, and that was the idea. We're all gonna stick together. So he worked his way all the way down, and he was asking us to leave, and we were asking for ice cream. And I was at the back door, so I must have been the last one to go in, and he got to me and he asked me to leave. And I told him I wanted ice cream. He said, well, the manager does not want to serve it. And I'm still asking for ice cream. So finally they went back to the manager's office and there was nothing there. I guess the manager said they're not gonna leave. They called the police. And as I said, we were sitting where you could see all the traffic. So we saw 4 cars coming, 2 police. There were 7 of us. So we had us a police a piece. They came in and they got a good look at us, and then they went back and talked to the manager. And they came up and they decided, one of them decided he would try to get us to leave. And he started, and they were asking him for ice cream. And he was saying, the manager does not want to serve you. So finally he had to change it to the manager's not gonna serve. So if you just leave quietly, you won't be arrested. There'll be nothing. You can just go home and it'll all be over. And everybody's still just agreeing. All of a sudden, and they asked them for some ice cream. So eventually, they decided they were going to arrest us. I don't know in 57 whether they were handcuffing anybody or not, but I do know they did not handcuff us. They took us to the magistrate's office, and he had, they had those typewriters, click, 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 and you can imagine how long it took him to do paperwork for 7 people. And finally, one of them walked over and looked at me. And I'm still trying to figure out why he picked me, but Mary Clyburn was taller than I was. Vivian was larger than I was. So maybe I was the smallest one. I can't figure that out, but he looked at me and he said, if you were my daughter, I'd take you across my lap and I'd spank you. And I have no idea why I said it, but I just looked at him and I said, if I were your daughter, I wouldn't be down here for this. And he was so embarrassed, and the other officers tried not to laugh, but they were snickering and doing. That was the end of the conversation. Nobody else had a conversation. That man click, 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 until he got us out of there. And David Stiff owned the Southeastern Business College. He was a businessman and his was upstairs. So he invited us to come up until they could get some office to see what the colored community was going to do about it, what was going to be their reaction. He had a drink machine, a cookie machine, and candy machine. He had 3 machines in there. He unlocked all machines and told us to help ourselves. You know, all we wanted to eat and drink, all we wanted to drink. And finally, somebody had contacted Attorney William A. Marsh Jr. And Attorney Marsh agreed to represent us and to meet us downtown at the court on that Monday. And so that is what happened that Monday morning. We went down there. He went down there intending to have it put off until Conrad Pearson got back. And Attorney Conrad Pearson was in New York at the national NAACP meeting. So the judge would not put it off. Attorney Marsh agreed to, Attorney Marsh automatically appealed the case, and he agreed to be our attorney. And it turned out to be, he was one of the attorneys we had. We had, I think, 5 of them. And everybody said Johnny Cochran was the lawyer, Johnny Cochran. We had, we had attorneys that we called the lawyers too, because they kept us out of jail. We didn't have to go to court right away, but eventually, when he appealed it, it went to Superior Court as trial by jury 12, and all of them were white, so we knew what was going to happen there. They upheld the first trial. Attorney Marsh appealed. Now we're going to Raleigh, to the State Appellate Court. I think that's what they call it. They upheld the court. So they decided we're not going to Washington. We'll just send a brief. They sent the brief saying our rights had been violated, and the answer came back to them that our rights were not violated. I guess they wondered what kind of rights you think you got, but whatever it was, they upheld it too. So according to the paper, I think the paper said about 2 days before the deadline for paying our fees, Attorney Marsh walked in the courthouse and handed them a check from the local branch of the Durham NAACP for the 7 of us. And that is the way it was until, of course, later on. It was quiet then, but later on, we know what happened. 1960, the Greensboro 4 did that thing. But history now records that it started in Durham. We knew it all a while, but now more and more history is recording that it did not start in Greensboro. It started at the Royal Ice Cream Bar in Durham.
Wow. That is, I love hearing how a chance meeting brought you all the way to being in history books.
And let me just back up and say, you're looking at one person who is not in the picture because he didn't get there in time. Jesse Gray. Jesse Gray was the 7th one that's not on the picture. He went to New York and organized what they call the rat rent strike. Don't pay no more rent till the rats are gone. And according to the paper, it was a successful one. So he left Durham and kept rolling. And that is who you're looking at. Jesse Gray on the side of the picture. The 7th Royal Ice Cream.
Wonderful. That is so wonderful. Let's go to the next slide. So we're looking at some protests here. You want to tell us about?
Yeah, and this is where the picture you see is the pictures of the people the students who started all over again after A&T did, and got it going. You ate in Winston-Salem, Bennett College, and all those colleges, and of course, North Carolina College. All of us joined together and started back to picketing. That's where that is. That's the Royal Ice Cream Bar.
Wow.
And you can see these in front were on the north side, and these were on Roxborough side.
Wow. Okay. Next slide.
That is the night that the marker was going to be put at um, Union Baptist Church, but
Mhm.
they were building that school. They had not finished the school, so you had all of those tractors and things out there, bulldozers and things working on that, and we couldn't put it up then. So the trustees and the pastor at Union Baptist agreed to keep it for us in Union Baptist Church. And there is Kelly Bryant, who was one of our strongest supporters, Mary Clyburn, who lives in New Jersey, and she will be here in June for another event. And Virginia Williams, Reverend Moore, and Attorney William A. Marsh Jr., who was the head attorney. And the picture you see there, that's the mirror that you see downtown. There's the 7 of us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's see. We have a little bit more time. So let's see. This is, tell us about your homecoming.
This is the picture up in the YWCA recognition program. That was pictures of an organization that would recognize people who had done important things at the Y. And the latest standing on, she's on my left, she's on your right, Miss McLester was the member of the pastor of Mount Vernon, of not Mount Vernon, I can't remember, a senior moment, can't remember the name of the church. But if you leave here and you go under the bridge, or you come back under the bridge, there's some flowers on each side that goes up the hill. One of those bushes of flowers is in memory of Miss McLester, who was, as I said, she's on my left. Those represent her, memorize her. She was killed in an accident. That's one Sunday afternoon going. The lady standing beside her did become one of the officers of the YWCA. I don't remember, I don't know who the man is, but the woman is Vivian Patterson. She is still living now, and she lives on Lawson Street, and she has probably got to be 100 years old. I believe she is. And then when you look at the one sitting over on your left, that's me on the left, sitting down. I can't remember the lady that's sitting beside me, but the lady standing is Miss Mary Trent Seaman. Some of you all might have heard the name. She was part of the Duke family. The picture in the middle is those of us who had lived at the Y for so long and loved it so much. That's our picture when we had our homecoming, and that I think was in the 90s. So that was a long time after we had closed. But somebody had the idea that we're gonna have a reunion. So a reunion we had, and that's in front of the Harriet Tubman branch. YWCA, that was our homecoming. And it was a great one, considering the fact that we'd been separated so long.
So tell me, how the Y, tell me about how the Y, or why the YWCA, why did it close down?
I really don't know that. All of them closed, but I don't know why, because we had one that was white only on Chapel Hill Street. They closed, I think, first, I believe, but I might not be sure. I might not be right, and eventually the Harriet Tubman branch, I closed.
Do you know when?
But I really don't know the reason.
Do you know when it closed?
I know it closed 1976 because I was the last one to leave. So that's why I know it closed. I had the key. And in 1976, I gave the key up to somebody and closed the door, and I moved up about 3 doors further on Umstead Street.
Wonderful. All right. So do you know anything about this art that we have over here?
I don't know anything about it, but looking at it, it has Harriet's place, and I believe that is what is going to become now. So for the people who are riding by, or the people who know by and wonder what they're gonna do with the place. What's happening now? I understand that somebody is repairing it, and that they hope to open it at some point.
That would be good. That would be good.
That would be something for us to look forward to. I don't know if I'll be able to go there and stay 20 more years. I don't think so.
And it's still at the same location, am I correct?
Same location, 304 East Umstead Street, I think that's where.
All right. I think we are, do we have any more slides? One more?
I don't think so.
I think that's it.
That's it. That's it.
So, audience, we just want to be able to take a couple minutes with Miss Virginia. If you have any questions, put them in the Q&A section so we can answer some questions, since we have a walking, talking, and lively piece of history with us. Let's see if I have any more that I've seen. Any questions? Any questions? I think. Could you tell us a little bit about what the inside of the building looked like? Can you walk us through the building?
What it looked like when we were there? Okay, well, you enter from the front, and as you see, you pass this desk where it was never supposed to be left uncovered. And then you go upstairs, it was 2 rooms upstairs it was 2 rooms, I think, that we go up. And then some of us lived on 1 room, and some of us lived on a 3rd room. So it was a 3-room building, but the bottom was for offices and plays and classes and so forth and so on.
That's wonderful. Uh-oh. Oh, it looks like I have a couple questions. Let's see. It says, one says, why were the participants in the Royal Ice Cream sit-in pictured at the altar rail at first? So that first picture that we had, can you tell us about this?
Yeah, that was, we were being served communion before we went to court.
Ah.
That was at Reverend Moore's church, which is over on, I think it's on Lawson, I think, or something like that, the little church on the hill. And he served us communion. So that is why we're there. And that's how Jesse Gray missed it, because he did not get there in time. Once we had been served communion, then we went to court.
Okay, wonderful. I have another question. Says, from Marissa, what kind of pushback did you get in Durham after the Royal Ice Cream sit-in? And then how long did it take for the case to make its way through the courts?
Well, some of the pushback, we did get some pushback from some people in the colored community. They said they didn't know us, and I understand why. Most of us were from out of town. I think Melvin Willis and Vivian Jones were from Durham, but the rest of us were from out of town, and they just said, well, we don't know who they are. I understand that when it came on the news, which is why the man was trying to get us out of there before the news came on, but it didn't work. So when they saw the news, I'm told that people got on the telephone, they said, did you see the news? Well, who are these people? And some said, I don't know, some people from out of town coming here trying to start trouble. Well, they were right about out of town, but we didn't come to start trouble unless you want to talk, as Congressman John Lewis said, good trouble. That's what we were trying to get in, good trouble. But yeah, that was the piece back, but eventually they got on board, I think, and decided that that's why somebody said, we don't know who they are, but we got to get them some lawyers. So they got, I think we had 5 or 6 attorneys, and more as they learn about it, they came on board. But yeah, we got pushback.
Okay.
And what was the other part of the question?
How long did it take to,
It looked
go?
like it took a long, yeah, it took a long time. Where we went to court, what they call recorder's court then.
Mhm.
We went there that Monday morning. But for it to get to the Superior Court, it was at least about 6 months. And then from that to go to Raleigh, I think it was about a year. It took a long time for it to make its way through court.
Mm. Did you receive any threats because of the protests?
No, I didn't. I never did.
Hey, that's good. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
So as a brief shift over to the YWCA, did you have any important figures or people that you especially remember that visited that really made a mark on you?
At the Y,
Mm-hmm.
I would say all of the directors, but I think Mama B, because Mama B was on the desk that night, that evening, that Sunday when we went. And when she found out what had happened, they said she rang the bell. And the bell, when the bell rings, there's a certain ring on it. It means everybody come downstairs. And she called down there and she was there. Jen and Mary Clyde went to jail. They went to jail, and said she was there that just ranting and raving and thinking she got us up out of the bed to come in here to hear about this. But that she was just that kind of person. However, they were all glad to hear about it too. So once they got up and got out of bed, it was a long time before we went upstairs and went to bed again. But Miss Blanchard, Miss Clark, all of them were nice people that you wanted to. In other words, we were away from home, away from our parents, but they treated us like parents. And like Skirty would tell us, all right, y'all can stay at that, y'all can go to the Goodwill Club and stay half the night if you want to, but you're going to St. Joseph in the morning. We had to hear that every time we went to the club. So.
How many people were able to be at the Y at the time? Like how many girls were there at one time?
Let me see. It was 2 to a room, 2, 4, 6. I would say it was at least 12. And then when they were able to, I don't know if they rented the James house or not, I think they housed about 6. So I didn't ever count them, but it was something like that.
Okay. Okay.
That was their room for them at one time.
All right. I have one more question for right now. We can see if we can stay a little bit later afterwards. But the last question I wanted to ask, could you tell us about what role did a place like the YWCA what role did the YWCA play in Durham as a whole? How did it impact your life?
I think it played a good role because, as I said, we had something here, community club or something. It brought people into the Y with their club that, well, otherwise we wouldn't have known anything about. It brought the children in to learn to do their kind of dances and all, and also to be young ladies into of, ladies. We had, and there were some organizations that this, no, I think they came out of the boys club. I think that's where they came from. But, and it had different kinds of activities for men and women, people of different organizations and things. And every once in a while, they would have a play there or something where you could come and just sit and listen. So to me, it was a very valuable access to Durham. And I know it was to me. That's why I never left until I had to give up the keys.
That is phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Virginia Williams. You are phenomenal. We might try to do a couple of extra questions. I just want to give Laura a second to say what she needs to say.
Thank you, Miles, and thank you, Miss Virginia, so much for sharing your photos with us so that we were able to share them today. And again, of course, sharing all your stories. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all the staff who helped to make this event possible, and to our city and department leadership for supporting our community stories. Just as a heads up, this is or kind of a reminder, this is one in a series, and we're over 20 of these recordings now. So if you haven't seen all 20, I highly recommend it. And this month, I just wanted to re-highlight College Heights, which we did in March of last year. And College Heights is a National Historic District, as you can kind of see in the photo. So if you haven't seen that one, check out our YouTube page so you can learn all about College Heights, especially if you're an NCCU fan. There's a lot of overlap with NCCU and College Heights. You can see this on our city's YouTube page and on the Durham Television Network. Normally these will re-air on Saturdays and Sundays around 12. And then coming up next month, April 29th, I think that's a fifth Friday, since we were talking about fifth Fridays a few times, and we are going to be featuring Pearson Town. So that is another community kind of in the Fayetteville Street area. If you haven't heard of Pearson Town, it's a great time to learn about it. But also, if you have stories from Pearson Town, let me know, contact me. I'd love to be able to share those or share photos if you have them, and tell everyone about it. So that's Pearson Town, April 29th, same time, same place, all that jazz. So I'm just gonna say again, thank you. And this is the end of the recording, but if you're on Zoom, you can stay and we might be able to fit in a few more questions. Thank you.
All right. Let's see, you got a little bit more energy to answer a couple more questions.